Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I'm in Parkville, near the intersection of Loch Raven and Putty Hill. And if you're following along real time, you know we're heading into Halloween. And cemeteries are with us 365 days a year, but they seem to get an uptick in popularity around Halloween. We thought we would be part of that uptick by doing a video on the cemetery behind me, the Oakleigh Cemetery. But it has a twist. The souls buried here are not human souls, but pet souls, pets of families that they have touched so deeply that they are buried here, many with memorials to go along with them. That's what we're going to talk about today. But let's start with a word about burying animals. Humans have been burying animals for eons. The ancient Egyptians were known to mummify cats and put them in tombs. Even before that, in what's today the country of Israel, the Ashkelon dog cemetery came about between the 5th and 3rd century BC, about 7,000 years ago. Thousands of dogs buried there. And even before that, archaeologists in a town called Oberkassel in Germany unearthed the remains of a puppy along with an adult human male and an adult human female. Clearly a nuclear family there, and that was 14,000 years ago during the Paleolithic times. A little bit more recently, on the grounds of London's famous Hyde Park, on the grounds of the Victorian Lodge, one of the caretakers' lodge, there was a pet cemetery that was active for about 20 years, from the early 1880s when a beloved dog named Cherry was buried there, up until the early 1900s when they stopped doing regular burials. But there are occasional burials, including in the 1960s a dog named Prince, who was the mascot for the British Royal Marines. Across the channel in Paris, there was another cemetery that was even more elaborate than the one in London in Hyde Park, and it was called, I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but the Cemetery des Chiens, the Cemetery of the Dogs. It was started in 1899 and is called a zoological necropolis. For in addition to dogs and cats being buried there, there are all sorts of animals, including monkeys, lions, and even pet fish. Many of the grave sites have quite elaborate headstones, and the gates of the cemetery themselves are fabulously ornate, maybe akin to something like Greenmount Cemetery for humans here in Baltimore. Our first cemetery in America got started in 1896 when a veterinarian named Samuel Johnson in Manhattan let one of his clients who had lost a beloved dog bury her in an apple orchard that he owned in a town called Hartsdale, New York, not terribly far away. Local publication picked up on it, and then the New York Times picked up on this idea of burying a pet in Hartsdale, and that gave rise to what was called the Hartsdale Canine Cemetery, or today the Hartsfield Pet Cemetery. Somewhere upwards of 80,000 pets are buried there. Not long after that, and closer to here in Baltimore, another veterinarian, David Buckingham, started a pet cemetery on his property for bereaved owners of lost pets. That eventually got taken over to become part of the National Arboretum, although if you go and look for it today, apparently it's almost impossible to find. It was abandoned many, many decades ago. Our first pet cemetery in Maryland was in the town of Aspen in Montgomery County, now called Aspen Hill. It was started in the 1920s and is the resting place of some 50,000 animals, including J. Edgar Hoover's dog, whose name was Spee, or I think more formally Spee DeBozo. And that brings us over to Oakleigh Pet Cemetery. That got started in 1937 by a gentleman named Alvin Seitz. He was an automobile dealer and buried his pets here on his property, and then in sort of a labor of love would help his fellow pet owners bury their pets here. Soon word caught on, and there were hundreds of people requesting pet burials here on the grounds. Seitz eventually had to make a decision on whether to be a pet cemetery owner or an automobile dealer, and he chose the cemetery. He even built a house here so that it'd be closer to where all of his work was going on. Over time, there have been about 8,000 burials here on the grounds. If you're curious, 3/4 are dogs, 1/5 are cats, and the rest are things like birds, ducks, and monkeys. I think the record for the most burials here goes to a woman who has 29 cats and 3 dogs interred here. Things were going well up through the 1970s. Mr. Seitz died in the 1970s, I believe, and the cemetery basically filled up with no new plots available, burying pets only for plots that had already been purchased. Then things started to go downhill a little bit. A new owner came in, but the weeds started rising up and the neighbors started complaining. By 2010, the property went up on a tax lien sale in Baltimore County for unpaid back taxes and fines from code violations. It was purchased by an investment group, and the neighbors and the owners of the pets interred here were fearful that it would become a developed site. That didn't happen. Today it is still here. It still needs love. There is a friends group that periodically comes out and helps clean up, and we could put information about that on our website. I want to wrap up though by reading from 2 memorials here at the cemetery. One is for a dog named Snozzy, and their owners write, "You came to me from heaven above, gave me 3 little angels to love. Although God came and took you away, in our hearts you will always stay." Clearly, Snozzy was part of a loving family there. And then the final one I'd like to read is to a cat named Butter, and it says simply, "Our hearts are sad, our home is empty, we love you dearly." Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.